Hey family, I'm Frank Battle, and this is Soulful Conversations. Your place, your safe place for conversations about relationships. If you're new here and you just happen to come across our channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. We appreciate you stopping in. So let's jump into today's conversation. We want to talk about the roommate phase. The roommate phase, man. The truth about relationships is the lovey-dovey honeymoon phase of falling in love, receiving calls and flowers and text message check-ins and having lots of sex fades if you allow it. If you allow it. Let me go back to that statement. If you allow it. Keep that in mind. Working to keep a relationship fresh, it takes a lot of effort and initiative. And I would advise anyone that's in a relationship to keep at it, to work at it, to keep the relationship fresh, avoid relationship staleness and boredom, and keep the relationship from going from a relational relationship to this roommate phase. Yes, the roommate phase is real, family. The roommate phase, or roommate syndrome, as it's been called, it occurs when a couple living together in a relationship or marriage has emotionally disconnected. The relationship has grown stale and boring and passionless. Believe it or not, there are many relationships that have morphed into this phase, and the couples are just living that way and they're not talking about it. They're just letting it be. You may be wondering, how does someone get there or what causes it? I would say busyness. And to kind of explain a little more, the average couple is juggling raising kids, managing a household, taking care of aging parents. My wife and I, we've been there, managing a career and trying to adjust and pivot, where we are right now in this place in the pandemic. And although we're working mostly from home, the work is still intense and it doesn't stop when we log off. The kids need a lot of energy and attention. So couples seem to say have a hard time getting a moment for themselves, let alone for making time for the relationship. All of the actions and all the things that you did to attract each other, they're no longer being done. And the problem comes when this is done for a long time and the couple finds themselves growing apart. As a relationship becomes more and more strained, more time is spent apart, and couples find themselves burying themselves in the TV, the iPads, the gram, Facebook, and having minimal interaction with one another. Unfortunately, many couples that are experiencing this syndrome, they're living under a roof, the same roof, not talking, barely touching one another, if at all, walking past one another, going and coming like a bus or a subway, just going and coming. And the kids are being dropped off and picked up. And a lot of emotionless assigned duties are being done. We have houses where one person's upstairs, one person's downstairs, or in the garage. And it becomes a thing where it's almost like you're avoiding one another. And literally, two ships passing in the night becomes the norm. Forget about Bruno. They don't talk. Nope, 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 nope. They don't talk. You hear things like, well, we're nice to each other. We're not getting in each other's way. We're not fighting. There's no drama. I still love him or her. This is how it is. How it is? My question, how are you? How are you? Are you really okay with being complacent and being a passive participant in your relationship? Family, one of the greatest enemies of a relationship is complacency. The relationship goes from interest, pursuit, talking, laughing, spending time together to just not being so busy and doing and avoiding one another that there's no face-to-face time. You're hardly looking in each other's eyes or looking at each other, stopping to take a breath or check in. Couples stop spending time together, stop sharing what's going on in their lives, and they're they're living as roommates and going through life. And many times, one of the partners is feeling very lonely. When the significant other gets in this mode, it gets a little testy because at that point, you're kind of here and you're there. You have your own thoughts going in your head and you're taking inventory of the little things that that person is doing. At some point, you find yourself being a little agitated, being a little something, I won't say the word. And that's a sign, neglect and disappointment are starting to show. And sometimes that quiet resentment and even anger towards the other person is on display. Body language starts to tell the truth. And there's an attitude of a subtle, passive aggressive way. Communication with each other, as I said, it becomes less and less frequency, and intimacy is gone, goes out the park. It gets exhausting, and the relationship is on the decline. And realistically, the relationship has taken a back seat, or the marriage has taken a back seat. So, are you wondering if you're in a roommate phase? So, let's do a relationship check in. When you leave home in the morning or return at night, how do you greet your significant other? Or let me ask, do you even greet one another? What about when you plan individual activities outside of the house? Do you verbally discuss them with your significant other first and considering how much time you're going to be away, especially if you have kids? When was the last time you talked about planning something just for the two of you? Just you two. And here's one. How many nights have you spent just falling asleep on the couch? Is the majority of your conversations and communications via text? Are the kids or the dogs the only thing you have in common these days? Are you in a place, and this is a tough one, are you in a place where you don't even care enough to talk about this situation? And do you feel connected to your friends and or coworkers more than your significant others? Think about how you felt hearing those questions. Now I want you to think about your truth, your answers. Honestly, it's nothing to be ashamed about. In life, we go through phases. And so let's just view this roommate phase as something we are working our way through to get to the other side. But I seriously want you to think about these questions. And if you need to pause the video, do it. Sit with your reality. It's a very serious thing. If this is where you are, there has to be a refocusing on the relationship, a renewal of what this relationship or this marriage is supposed to be. You have to get back to that. So here's some helpful suggestions. Just a few things that I want to throw out at you. Number one, acknowledge the problem. That's the first step. We have a problem. You and your significant other have to sit down and talk about the conditions that you're living under. You have to address it, the realness of it, address what's happening, and make plans to move ahead. Don't so much dwell on the past, but make plans to move ahead. To end the roommate syndrome, number two, you have to look inward and identify the changes that you need to make, as well as your significant other. Number three, take responsibility and accountability for your part, and then look to move forward. Number four, reconnect. And then, reminisce while you're reconnecting. Get back to date night. Talk about the new things that you like to do. Make some new memories. Number five, get back to bed at the same time. Get back to bed at the same time, even if you're just having pillow talk. Because we know pillow talk can lead to some interesting evenings, if you know what I'm saying. But I want to say this, please note, outside the bedroom, you must take time for each other. Number six, if you feel like this is something that may not work, or your partner, significant other may not be for it, I just want to ask you, please try to find a counselor or someone who specializes in couple therapy. And number 7, weekend getaways. Find an inexpensive way to just get away, to recharge. And my last one, number 8, surprises. The getaway could be a surprise, but just little surprises. Something to just bring a spark back. Significant others need to stay connected and communicate. The absence of dialogue, miscommunication, and misunderstanding can eventually get you to this place of roommate syndrome, which can be a major problem. When something is wrong or it doesn't feel right, we need to act. We need to talk about it. I was just thinking, my wife and I, we had a moment a couple of months ago where our schedules were kind of seemingly looked like they were getting crazy. And I remember this was a time when we were kind of transitioning in our hybrid work schedules. And she stopped me as I was walking through the den, and she was coming out the kitchen, and she said with her lips perched, she said, "You haven't kissed me." And I kissed her and I apologized. And we took a moment, we hugged for a while, we took a deep breath, and we planned to sit down for dinner. If you are in a serious relationship or married, the roommate zone is a dangerous place for your relationship. 9 times out of 10, in this zone, the intimacy that is very crucial to a relationship goes away and is replaced with loneliness, boredom, pornography, exhaustion, affairs, a whole lot of craziness. Living with a companion is one thing, but where is the connection? If you answer the questions that I previously asked and you find yourself in this roommate phase, this roommate syndrome, don't lose hope. You can fix your relationship. You can revitalize your relationship with a increased dedication to working on the relationship and appreciating each other. If you're struggling in this zone, you can rekindle, you can reconnect. You can find that sweet spot that you once had. Get back to enjoying one another. And as I mentioned, and I have to say it again, if it is a more complicated situation, attending couple therapy with your significant other is a way to go. You know, real talk, family, if you want to stay roommates, why did you get in this relationship? Or why did you get married? You could have just moved in with your girlfriend or your boy or family member. If you believe your relationship and this your love for this significant other matters, make a recommitment to what your relationship or your marriage means. Evict your roommate and move in that lover, that bae, that boo back in. Don't choose another roommate. Choose a lover. So that's the conversation. Whew. Hey, on this channel, our sole purpose, the Soulful Conversation, is to help empower and foster healthy relationships. A small thing you can do to support that aim is to subscribe, hit the like button, the share button, and share it with someone. If this conversation has resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you. Comment below, share it on your social media, and even tag us. I'm Frank from Soulful Conversations. Talk with you in the next conversation. Peace.